Hey, welcome back everybody to the Bennis podcast. And today's episode is with Hanno Möttöla from Finland. We talked about his times in college and transferring to the NBA and then later on to Europe, the lessons he learned from that. We also went into his retirement process, retiring, coming back and finishing the job, which he talked about the emotions he went through and the dark sides of retiring. Then we went into talking about HBA, which he's the head coach at the Helsinki Basketball Academy. And he took us through the recruitment process, the scouting process in Finland, as well as the academy and its style of play, the way it evolved over the years, and how many players it produces for the national team, actually. It was a very impressive conversation. It was very nerdy at some point. We talked a lot about playing styles and different ways of maximizing your roster, but it was very insightful. I hope you enjoyed. Please subscribe to this podcast and spread the news, spread the love, and let everybody enjoy how we enjoyed the conversation. Thank you. Talk soon. Bye. All right, Hanno, we're back at it again. Just a quick restart. So the technology is playing sometimes some jokes on us. Welcome to my little podcast world here.
Well, great to be here.
I'm looking forward to this conversation, but as I said on the first recording, Andrew Bogut told a little Rick Majerus story, and I think it's only fitting that as an icebreaker that you tell one as well. And whatever version you feel fits the audience, feel free. We're all used to hearing some crazy stories.
All right. Well, there might be some young basketball players listening to this, so I keep it PG. Obviously, there's a ton of stories about him that are not for everybody's ear, but he was a large man, as anyone who've seen him coach or seen him know. And another thing, he did not mind being without clothes. So at one point, probably my junior year, he was having some back problems, and our great trainer was giving him, had to give him some treatment, and he wanted to get it done during practice. So he'd be sitting right in the middle line for the 3-hour practice, and for some reason, and he was giving low back treatment, with the steam machine, and absolutely no reason that he did not need to take his shorts off or anything, but that's who he was. So he took his shorts off, and the whole humongous human being is sitting there in Huntsman Center, just butt naked, and coaching a basketball practice. So we look. There's 160, 170 kilo man sitting right there in the chair, and our trainer is behind him, trying to tell him, like, hey, you can put your shorts on. But all right. So the practice goes on, and then Andre Miller, I remember he messes up something. And then every time, coach started talking to you, obviously you need to look at him and then maybe come closer to him. So as Andre's kind of getting closer to coach there, but trying not to look at this butt naked human being. But, and Andre and coach is cussing him out. I mean, good. I mean, and coach got into some personal stuff. I mean, no one can coach the way he today. I mean, you'll be fired in 30 minutes, and I'm not defending him. I mean, the vocabulary and the way he coached is not for today's world, but it is what it is. So he's cussing Andre out hard. I mean, using every word possible. And then Andre's kind of, looking to the side. And then I remember coach going like, Andre, look at me when I'm beep, 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 talking to you. So then Andre had to watch him looking right in the eyes, and that's just the way he was. And you can imagine, having someone coach butt naked 3-hour practice, and didn't even care. Like he was comfortable, and he made everybody around him uncomfortable. But so that's a good story that I certainly remember, because I know we were laughing at that after.
I'm sure he's unfazed, but it does phase the players a little bit. That's a good preparation for some crazy crowds in college, because in college you go to some crowds and they do some crazy stuff too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, and in a way, when you play for him, you know for sure you're never ever gonna practice harder or be not only physical but psychologically, you know, in a more demanding atmosphere.
Yeah.
And you know, and it's in good and bad. You know, I certainly feel that, you know, I learn a lot, but also it took a lot out of me. Yeah, it was an interesting time. You know, it's one of those that I would probably do it in a heartbeat, but I would never in a million years let my son play for him. That's the kind of, you know, life lesson it was.
Yeah, yeah. I had my college coach was crazy too. I was in a small Division II college, but I mean, he went so far that he even punched me in my stomach. You know, that it was a little.
I've got that, and I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
he
a different
grabs
world.
you
It was
and
a different world back then.
yeah, different world, and I don't defend it, but it's you know, it was kind of, you know, you were go with it, and everybody was in the same boat, and that's kind of what kept that group so close, because we couldn't. The greatest thing in the Majerus teams was that we didn't have a one altercation, maybe one half in my 4 years. Like not single player argue with another.
Yeah, yeah.
A, because you know if you do it during practice, you're out of there. Two, if we wasted one little bit of energy arguing each other, we would not survive him.
Yeah.
So that's why the relationships that we have after, I don't know, 25 years are so close, because we went through something, you know, that people not really, you know, honestly shouldn't go through, but we did.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you know, and became, you know, on top of things.
It creates a bond, and it reminds me of a book that I keep mentioning this book in every podcast when I talk about books. When this kind of situation comes up, there's this Sebastian Junger. He's a journalist, and he went into war-ridden countries. It's called Tribe or Tribes, plural. I don't tribes maybe, but he talks about the bond that it creates, and those stressful situations, especially for men, for masculine. I guess it's the hormonal impact or whatever, but it creates a special bond because you're going through stress, you're going through adversity, you're creating relationships with each other. It gives each other a purpose to survive. You know, you're surviving the coaching, you're surviving every day, and you end up, maybe that's the coach's philosophy at that point. Back then it was maybe, you know, to create some sort of antagonist, so the players get together and they are fighting for each other on the court. You know, so it's advantages and disadvantages, but it's not pleasant, to say the least.
Oh yeah, and I mean, if, you know, we continue with this Majerus, like he knew how comfortable we were around him.
Yeah.
For that reason, like literally in my 4 years, I saw him in his office, I think 2 times. So he lived in a hotel on campus. He was there or at some restaurant or somewhere traveling. He did not. He came to the arena for practice and he left and gone. So he created kind of safe place for us to be around the assistant coaches in the basketball offices.
Yeah.
Because it was probably until my junior year. I mean, every time I saw him, you know, Huntsman Center, you know, the kind of the entry level is, you know, pretty high up. So there's a good probably, 30 at least, you know, rows of seats you walk down and every time I saw him walk into the practice from that, you know, from the door, my stomach would, you know, go, you know, in kind of uncomfortable feeling, kind of like in a roller coaster, you know. So I mean, you were scared of your coach. I mean, I don't mind, probably for the first 2 years. I mean, then kind of third year, I was kind of secured, and I knew, like, hey, I know it might be hell today. We might be running. He might be talking to, you know, me talking some shit about Finland or whatever. But, you know, I'm going to kind of get through it.
Yeah.
But it's and like, again, it's not the right way to do it, but that was the environment we were in. So because of, you know, our assistant coaches, Donnie Daniels, who've done, I mean, now retired, you know, I mean, he, after Majerus, he went to UCLA, he went to Gonzaga, and now he retired. I mean, incredible career. I mean, he's coached so many Hall of Fame college, so many Hall of Fame, you know, basketball, you know, NBA players or future Hall of Famers. But him and then Jeff Judkins, who became a BYU's women's coach for 17 years. Those are the two guys who, I truly love. Like they made the Majerus experience possible.
Yeah.
So like you described, Majerus, he knew how uncomfortable we were. If it was possible, he didn't fly with us. He took us different plane. Or if he was on the same plane with us, because back then we only flew maybe 1 or 2 charter planes every year. It was all, Delta flights from Salt Lake. I mean, he would come in the very, very last and, sit in a business class, boom, and we would not even see him. He would never come to our dinners. We go with the trainers, maybe 1 or 2 assistant coaches. We go to restaurants. He would recommend the best restaurant in town. He made sure we ate better than anyone. But like he knew, like we were uncomfortable around him. And that was the kind of the power, power alignment in that team, and it worked, but it definitely took a lot out of players, and a lot of players transferred. I mean, over 3 players a year transferred, and we talk about 20, 30 years ago, when it was pretty big decision to transfer. Now it's like, hey, coach told me, that I need to work on something. I'm on the transfer portal. So it was it was a big lesson, and something definitely that, I carry with me positively the rest of my life, but also some things that I'll make sure that I don't create, or I don't want people to feel uncomfortable like we were.
Yeah, I think it was a different generation too, in terms of keeping the distance and keeping the authority figure high, and not creating any kind of bond to the players. Now it's the opposite. I feel like the coaches have to have some sort of bond and a relationship with the players. The players find it important, not to soothe them, but just to be able to coach them better, to gain the trust. Back then, it was not necessary to gain somebody's trust. You either do it or you're out, and nowadays I think it's different. But as a Utah alum, it looks like you're still very involved. You have a pride around about the Utes, don't you? Looks like you're still.
Absolutely. I mean, it's it was probably because that I invested so much into those 4 years, and the school gave me back. I mean, probably the best. Even though, I mean, it's crazy to say, I just tell these kind of horror stories. But it was the hardest 4 years of my career or my life. But at the same time, it was the strongest emotional experience, and great accomplishments, came out of it. So definitely, because I talked to the guys, friends, and I know they went through the same thing, and so it is a kind of brotherhood, it's great, looking back. I follow the basketball, follow football. We have a great women's gymnastics team. They average over 15,000 people at their home meet. Now it's kind of become a football school. Basketball is kind of on the rise again, but it's a hell of a football school now, and it's a great city, beautiful campus. I'm planning on going back probably after a World Cup and go visit them. And but yeah, it's like anyone, who, I mean, if you play at some great professional team for 4 years or 5 years or 6 years, and you truly kind of fall in love with that place, hey, you're gonna be cheering for them
absolutely
the rest of your life.
Absolutely. It's there's an intrinsic value in that, because you created so many bonds, friendships, and memories that I would do college all over again. I mean, that's to me, that was the best experience of my life, in terms of cultural experience, in terms of meeting people, opening up, being myself, and learning, finding myself, first of all, so it's not only on the court, but off the court, the campus life itself. But you said something interesting. That was the toughest time mentally, and toughest time coaching, playing for Rick. But we talked about it a little bit, but how was this tougher, or was the TAU Ceramica times tougher for you mentally, when you had to play?
I mean, very, very different. With Utah, you had a common goal. Everybody was, in for it, for one reason, and it's still like everything on the basketball court. I mean, with Majerus, you knew, like, he knew more about basketball than, I mean, anyone. Like so everything he was coaching, you didn't second guess. I mean, I've kind of had that experience with Majerus, and then Dusan Ivkovic was another coach of mine who, like, you're in the practice, you're like, you know what, like, I might not agree with everything, but like, he's right about it for this team. So you just go and do what he's asked. But I guess it comes with a great experience. But my experience with TAU, it's probably the only big mistake I did in my career. Not looking too much back, but I didn't know anything about European basketball. I was gone for 6 years, and back then, we talk about mid '90s when I went to States. There was no internet. I couldn't watch NBA. I couldn't watch. In Finland, you might see like a Euroleague final, Euro Cup final, one game a year. I mean, only kind of close, experience I've had with high level European basketball. I played in the '95 European Championships in Athens. But in Finland, you didn't see high level Euro Cup games. So I was gone for 6 years. I didn't follow European basketball in any which way. Yeah, I played for the national team in summers, but we were in a B, C level. So I get to TAU, and I had no clue who, I just heard like, yeah, Argentina is in was it World Cup 2002 or
Yep.
Yeah. So and they won it or they got silver. I can't. Yeah, we got a couple of players coming back. I had no clue who Luis Scola or Andre Nocioni were. Zero. I mean, never heard of them. I got an automatic light, so I need to. It goes off every 15 minutes. I'm not going crazy if I do this. So I wasn't educated enough to go in, and then I got kind of screwed by European affiliate of the agency, and got into I didn't know about Duško Ivanović, but and his ways, and that pretty much everybody wanted to leave that place anyway, but kind of the turning point was, and I was used to practicing hard. I was there in great shape. I was there from the first day of, I don't know, August 12th or something crazy long. But then in November, I in practice landed on Luis Scola's foot on a fadeaway jump shot, and fractured my ankle. And I knew when it happened that this is not ordinary. But the team decided, to not take care of it, and they gave me a false MRI, told me it's a tendonitis, and after a week forced me to play with it. So I played for another month. In the last game, and then that's why I had a big 2-year contract. I got released, or I got the signed a document so I can leave on December 13th against Maccabi. Yeah, played there for almost 40 minutes because I think Scola was hurt. We beat Maccabi, and I was released at midnight, and that's probably the happiest days of my life, because and it's kind of part of my weakness. But that experience of when they mess with my health, my body, that changed me, and kind of in a way, destroyed kind of my rest of my European career, because I couldn't trust anyone anymore. And again, it's my weakness. It's my weakness, but that's the way it was. And I had to have a surgery on that foot later. I still have a loose piece on that, and I came back home and showed the MRIs to our national team doctor. Said, like, whoever this MRI was from, he's never played basketball. So it was a fake MRI, all that. But it's it was back in the days when there was no FIBA kind of arbitration, and so it's a bad experience, and it changed me, but that's the way it goes. I'm not probably the only one with that kind of experiences. But yeah, that experience definitely changed me, and it took me a long time to earn a trust, and kind of in different coaches, and so now looking back, like the next year in Bologna, I mean, I love the way we played. We had a great team. I think Jasmine Repa is probably the best coach I had in Europe, but I was still so kind of seeking for negativity and unsure that I wasn't in good place mentally. Yeah, we played great. I mean, other than losing in the EuroLeague final, so if I could go back now, definitely would not sign straight out of college. Straight out of MBA to TAU, because just wasn't a good organization then, unfortunately. Great players, really good teammates. We were a great team, but just how they ran their business is chose to do it that way.
Yeah, that's the typical sign of trauma from a career, from just one bad experience. It kind of took away your whole, not just trust. Naive. It's not necessarily that you were naive. It was just that you were trusting the team that you signed with and the people that you were working with, and then fall out. That's a classic sliding door moment, which I wanted to talk about. But this is it. If you would have went somewhere else after the NBA, your career could have completely taken a different route from that point on.
Yeah. Now looking back, it's easy. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. If everybody except maybe some NBA Hall of Famers, they always go back and think, hey, I should have done this, should have done this. Yes, going back, I should have left the NBA draft after my sophomore year, my junior year, the latest. Then I stayed 4 years, got hurt my last year, dropped to second round. And then, should have accepted the 1 year contract offers, after second year. But, I kind of felt that, because you were brainwashed playing for Majerus, you were brainwashed to play this ultimate team game.
Yeah.
And then you go to the NBA where it's a very individualistic. And as crazy as it sounds, I didn't enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed playing, when we got Tony Kukoc, playing with him, because you knew there was always a chance he's going to pass you. Great teammates, great time, but I wasn't selfish enough, and also I'm not ashamed to admit it. After 4 years with Majerus, I was like, I'm glad I don't have to work that hard anymore.
Yeah.
Where, like, in fact, when your pro career, that's when you should start working harder. But I was already in an environment where you practice as much as it's humanly possible. So then, you couldn't go to a place and practice more, especially in the NBA schedule. So, again, it was, if I could go back, I would do things, maybe some differently, but we don't have that luxury. And I try to kind of get the positives out of all the experiences. And then even the ones who were negative, I try to now later on, I try to turn them into positive and see, what can I, draw out of it. Like, again, with Dusko Ivanovic, he was a good basketball coach, and there's no question. We played hard. We played fast. I remember he was always, telling me, like, don't shot fake, don't keep the ball moving. Like, I come from NBA where, in the half court, it is a slower game. He was trying to get me to pass the ball quicker, so yeah, in different circumstances, yeah, it could have been different, but that's, that was my career, and I kind of try to get the good things out of it, and hopefully makes me a better person and a better coach.
That's we don't have that luxury to go back and change things, but that's the beauty of experience that you can carry on to today. And I was wondering about that through the experiences, the early experiences, let's say like Utah, Rick Majerus, different style, different hard. You go to the NBA, completely different approach to the game, completely different locker rooms, completely different relationships with the players. Then you go to Europe, you have another tough experience where it's a mind shifting, it's a completely different approach to how to handle people. And then you go throughout the career in Europe. I was wondering that those let's say those first three experiences, okay, that you had, what if you had a philosophical lesson that you carry on today from those times that you feel like that's still impacting you today as a coach? What do you think would be the biggest takeaway from your experiences that you had, that you maybe try to give to the young players?
Yeah, well, I think probably from Majerus or from Utah is that game is always bigger than you. It's always bigger than individual. It's a team sport. If you want to be individualistic in the basketball, then you're gonna have a hard time at the higher level. Then you need to go maybe play tennis or bowling or whatever, where you can just be yourself. So it was an ultimate team experience. Like, going back to the stories that we discussed earlier. If we weren't a really, really tight group, there's no way we could have survived it. And we felt it kind of also grew your empathy towards your teammates, because if you knew someone was kind of down, you automatically try to help them.
Mm-hmm.
Because we knew if someone messes up in practice, that's going to make the practice longer and longer. And also because Majerus was, he didn't make the team run. He always made one individual run, which I kind of liked, so you earn it. Because then, like, if one messes up and the whole team runs sprints, and yeah, maybe once a practice, but like if it happens, so I do kind of respect that aspect of Majerus. Like, hey, you need to take care of your stuff. Hey, Benas, you messed up. Benas 5. You're going up and down 5. The rest of us keep practicing. So that's probably that team thing. Then from NBA is obviously it's the highest level athleticism in the world. It's the best basketball league in the world, and then to still able to play there. I grew up in a Finland that was not a basketball country in any which way. Now we're in a basketball, and we've earned respect. Today's young basketball players in Finland, they got Lauri Markkanen, they got high level European players. They see our national team playing in the top 8 in Europe. So it's something that they can kind of achieve for. When I was a high school player, my only goal, my dream was to play in the first league in Finland. There was 0 EuroLeague players. Never, we have 3 or 4 guys drafted from Finland, but in the 60s, 70s, early 80s, but no one has, stepped on a court. So I couldn't dream about that. To actually make it there, and be able to play. I played, I started, 20, 30 games of my 2 years. And so actually play that, like that you can get it done despite you might not have the same starting level or point at the other, so I kind of threw away a lot of excuses and showed a lot of people that you can get it done out of Finland. Like it'll be like someone from Lithuania. I don't know if you have some hockey player in NHL, like let's get out. Yeah. Let's something like that, so that was kind of the, what I get, like a self-pride that I made it, and then, from that TAU is probably kind of warning experience, that because kind of the experience I had there, I lost the love for the game. Mm-hmm. I truly, like, for the rest of my kind of pro career in the EuroLeague level, I didn't love basketball. It became a job. Mm-hmm. And I kind of already, when we got to Pesaro, my 3rd year in Europe, our firstborn daughter was born in Bologna. So we were talking with my wife then. We're like, hey, we're going to move back when our daughter goes to school. I'm done. Which now, like, looking back, was a crazy talk. Like, the amount of money that high level European players were making back then, but like, yeah, I'm done. Like, so I knew like 2007, 2008 will be the last year, and but it's, that's the way kind of. So then to kind of retire first time after a year in Ares, and then really fall in love with the game again. That's what I'm sitting here talking to you. That off season, I retired 2008 from Ares, and then came home, didn't play for that winter, and then probably around February, March, fell in love with the game again, and knew that, hey, it was just a temporary hiccup for the last 5-6 years that I didn't love game, but game has been too good to me, and so that kind of falling in love with whatever you do. In our case, it's basketball. You're there, talking to me because you love basketball, and basketball has been great to you. Same here. So so that's why I kind of cherish. I don't take basketball for granted. It's a too great of a game to take for granted.
Absolutely. You were. It sounds like you were mentally cooked more than physically, and that at that point it was just needed a break, because after that many years, that many experiences, your mind needed a break a little bit. And I was going to ask about retirement, because I saw you retired, unretired, you came back, and I thought it was maybe a struggle to retire and to come back. But what re-sparked the love for the game when you decided to come back in that break? Was it just the being away from it and you missed it, or is that something that kind of from the outside inspired you to go back and you wanted to continue?
I probably had to get away with it. Like I said, I mean, the experiences I had, and obviously some great experiences. I mean, shoot, I mean, I had great European career, great places, great friends. I mean, Euroleague is unbelievable basketball. But I was, I was mentally done, but yes, I mean, physically as well. I had to have the ankle surgery, and then when I retired, and then probably in about January, February, start kind of getting just body start asking for something.
Yeah.
And then the mental side comes in, and you start kind of having almost a panic attack feelings, like I need to be out there playing.
Yeah.
I mean, I was only 32, 33 years old then. And so then I watched I remember I watched a EuroLeague game, and I'm counting, like, there's 3, 4, 5, there's 7 ex-teammates there playing. Like, I should be there playing.
Yeah.
And then you start getting this unbelievable amount of energy in your body, like, hey, I need to go. So I remember calling my friend. It's probably March, there's still snow on the ground, and I'm scheduled to have a shoulder surgery middle of March. This is probably a couple of years before, just to repair a shoulder injury I had for a long time. And I'm like, hey, can you come run with me? I need to go. Like, either I go alone or you come with me. So I remember running there. All of a sudden I'm just smiling. I'm running there. So then I started training kind of without, like, truly a goal. Then I go to shoulder surgery. I know it's a long process. It's 4 months. And I after I wake up from a surgery, I asked the doctor, like, hey, how long, how bad was the damage? How long it takes? Like, well, it takes about 4 months. I'm like, all right. And I heard, like, what time the national team camp opens. And then I'm like, all right, okay. And then I keep training, with this sling on. And then probably a month later, I call, or maybe less than a month later, call our national team strength coach, Jussi Hirvonen, who's been with Henrik Detman for 30 years. So he was with Germany when they were there. And I get an individual program. And then I had more fire in my belly that probably ever, maybe since when I was early 20s. And I went from end of March until July, I think, first week of July, when we were in Portugal and I met our trainer again. I went from about 112 kilos to 99.5 kilos to 4.6 body fat, just training on my own, because I had a goal. Hey, I'm going to come back. I'm going to do some. I'm going to show myself. I'm going to show, like, I'm back. I mean, I literally, in 4 months, I lost over 10 kilos. I went to 4.6 body fat, and I felt like, like I was 25 again.
Yeah.
And then, and played it great that summer with the national team. Played great with the qualifications, and then unfortunately, the following years, I had two Achilles surgeries, another shoulder surgery. But if I didn't do that kind of comeback, I would have missed 2 European championships and a World Cup, and so I was there to kind of build this base, and then I was stupid enough to leave and let these other guys to enjoy it. So I guess somewhere deep inside I had to come back and enjoy it, and then I was, when I retired 2014, I've been good with that.
Yeah.
So high level athletes, when they retire, people have to respect when they try to come back, because it is a hard process. I know friends who've gone through, big time mental issues after retiring. Mm-hmm. And I talked to, a sports psychologist, and there's probably best, few hours of my life when I, first met her and talked to her, because it's, it was great to get everything out of your body.
I think the feeling of stepping on the court again and finishing the job is probably, it's you can't explain it to somebody. I was unfortunate because I had to stop playing through my injuries on a much lower level. but I never felt like I finished the job. I came back to play on a much lower level, just to get something out of my system. Like you said, I needed to do it, but it never felt like I closed the door completely. That's why when I was with the teams as an assistant coach or whatever, there was so much anger and frustration early on, just because you feel like you should be out there, and you feel this pain all the time, and it's something that probably will never go away. But it's I respect players who come back, who want to finish a job, who want to really leave on a good note and be in peace. I think the peaceful part is what people are missing. And then especially after that, you can probably go into the next phase of your life and create a new identity, let's say in another avenue, whether it's basketball as a coach or another avenue in finances or whatever. But then you can close the door and move on, and some players never are able to. So it's
and I think one big part of it is if you're lucky enough to play high level sports, for in front of tens of thousands of people, I mean, you become addicted to it.
Yes.
I mean, and to hear your fans yelling your name and your song, that's what on my kind of comeback, that's what I was kind of missing.
Yeah.
I remember a story, I was hurt, but we play Israel on a European Championship qualifiers, maybe 2012 or something, and we were going to play Israel at the Maccabi Arena. Obviously played there many times in Euroleague and love the fans. I was hurt, but I told we don't usually carry injured players on the road. I told Henrik Detman, like, hey, I'm going with you. I need that dose of drug into my body. So while the other guys were, I remember then I was jogging, I was rehabbing, guys were practicing, I was jogging kind of around the upper deck and just kind of getting the feeling of the arena in me. And then during the warm-ups, our guys are warming up. I go and the what's it, Gate 13, whatever, what's the Maccabi's fan group's name? Gate something.
Yeah.
They show up and start, the drums start beating. I go at that end of the arena, just stand there and just listen to them. And my body's in a goosebumps. I'm like I needed this. And those are that's why I'm jealous of musicians. They can still pack a stadium when they're 70.
Yeah.
If I go play basketball now, I might get 10 people to, if I pay them to rebound for me. But no one's coming to see, maybe in football they go see some, old timers, but no one's, but what's the reason Rolling Stones or then they don't retire? Why would you? If you can climb on the stage, if you could come and go on a basketball court when you're 70, and there's 70,000 people yelling at your name, I would do it every day.
I agree. It's hard to explain to people who never done it, because they don't get the rush of adrenaline, the dopamine, all the hormones start going crazy. I remember I had two of those experiences. One of them was Rio Olympics, when you walk out in this opening ceremony and you see 80, I think it was 100,000 people, and it's just, I mean, it's not necessarily just for your team, but it was still the energy that people create is something that if you experience on your own body, not only being a guest in the stands, but being on the floor, it's something that it's very special, and I cherish it as well.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about HBA Academy and just in general for people to understand the recruitment process, but also the scouting process early on in Finland, as how the academy created over the years. It's since 2012, is it? Yeah. So it's been 11 years now, and there's been a visible progression. Also, how many players go to college every year. It's a very successful program that the federation started, right?
Yes.
So go ahead, explain a little bit the grassroots program and the program of how you go about scouting and selecting the selection process for HBA.
Yeah, just like a really short history. They, HBA is kind of part of the new coming of Finnish basketball. First they added a lot more days for the junior national team programs. When I was playing junior national teams, it was probably 2-3 day camps, and we go play Lithuania and we wonder why we can't compete. Not that we can't compete today either against Lithuania, but anyway, but so now our junior national team programs are together, I don't know, 60, 70 days a year, maybe, and then they, figure that probably in a 2007, 2008, like we need the best players together year round, in a sense, the same model that Australia has at Center of Excellence, or INSEP has in France. I know nowadays it's not as big of a part of France basketball anymore, because the academies, the pro teams have such a great academies. But anyway, and then we looked to Lithuania. What's been done in Marčiulionis and Sabonis schools, and in Vilnius and Kaunas. Those were the kind of the 4 places that our federation benchmarked, and then they created HBA, Finnish version of the high school academy. So I mean, kind of set point is in Finland, high school is 3 years. It's the 10th, 11th, 12th grade. So when a player comes to HBA or goes to high school, he or she can be 15 and she turns 16, during the first year. And so we start, looking at the players probably year and a half, maybe 2 years earlier. Our obviously the coaches, we are national team coaches, we're federation paid coaches, so we have a good access to our junior national team camps, coaches. In Finland, kind of the selection for the first junior national team, which is the U16 level, it starts what we call all-star camps. It's first is more regional, where your junior coach can just name a player or players who they think are good enough to go to this regional camp. Those are big camps, maybe 40, 60, 80 players in one part of the country. A lot of coaches go there, they have a camp, and then from these different regional all-star camps, I think when they are 13, turning 14, I think that's kind of the year it starts, 14, and they then move on to they have a kind of like a all-star cup where they create a kind of a team from each region, and then they come together and play each other in this big camp, and have they have these bigger camps, and then towards the year when it's the summer, when you're kind of U15, year before the U16 summer, that's when the first kind of team is grouped. It's still probably 2 rosters, so it's not just 12 guys. It's probably, I don't know, 20 guys or 24 guys, whatever. And we, a lot of times the first international experiences that we go to Lithuania for, Anykščiai for summer and have a camp there and maybe play Lithuania or some other teams. So out of those, we start seeing for HBA purposes, we start seeing the high level talent, not the guys who are best at that time, guys who have a possibility to maybe, grow into a senior national team player.
Upside. You're looking for upside.
Yes. HBA's job is to develop men's and women's national team players. That's it. But then kind of the recruiting and following players really kicks in when they go into the 9th grade. So year before they go to high school, we go to all the junior national team camps, and we go see the tournaments, and then we start talking to we talk to their first national team coach, their junior coach, and then to players' parents. And we don't talk to the actual the underage 14, 15-year-old a player until they probably come visit us here at our facilities and kind of recruiting visit in front of their parents. So we do everything by the book and kind of follow good guidelines and then we try to show what we have here and hopefully we get the players who we feel are high level future players. As we all know, scouting is a very inexact science. Otherwise NFL scouts would get the number 1 pick quarterback every time, right? NBA, there would be no bust in the NBA draft. So, and we all know,
I call it educated guessing.
Oh yeah, and sometimes it's not very educated guessing. but we know for basketball purposes, especially in the boys' side, girls, they develop a year or 2 earlier. So by the time they're 15, you kind of see what they can be physically. In boys, especially in Finland, kind of how our genetic, buildup is. Finnish boys, when they're 14, 15, 16, they're still, a lot of cases, young boys.
Little boys, yeah.
They don't shave. They don't need to shave. They're still, talking with the high pitch voice, and so this is kind of the absolute hardest time to see what could be, what could become. So our job is to keep the door open for as many as possible, not have a very narrow nose selection. And then it's not if you don't get in the first year, doesn't mean that you can't come the next year, or for the last year. So that's kind of how we do it, and we don't have a certain number of scholarships or spots. We can, we hope to, for next fall, we hope to have probably 16, 17, even 18 players. I think with 16 is a really good to run practice. But if there's more talent, more players are ones who we want and want to come, we take them. And then, hopefully in the next first year or two, the player himself realizes that, what is professional basketball for me? Am I ready to invest as much as it needed? And then, then we go by the, daily work and see kind of how we can hopefully help these young men, and our girls side help the young women, and some go to States to college, some start pro career here, some figure out during high school, what, high level sports isn't for me. I was great when I was 14, 15. Now I'm 17. It's not for me. And then we've given them a chance, and they realize themselves. So that's kind of how the selection program goes, and we don't tell anyone that you need to go here or you need to go to this school, or we go, it's part of my job always to help the process and talk to college coaches, and we talk to the local pro coaches here, but it's always the parent and the player itself.
So I'm writing something down just not to forget it. But before we go into the style of play and the way you construct the play and playing against men, I was wondering in the recruitment process, what do parents look for? Because you mentioned parents quickly at towards the end of the recruitment process. But what are the things that parents usually value, especially in Finland?
Well, I think the moms always value, how everything outside of basketball. How's the academic structure? How's the weekly schedule? What are the different services that we can provide outside of basketball? But in Finland, teenagers are pretty how to say, they're already pretty independent in a lot of ways that they kind of, in a lot of cases, they make the decision. The parents support it. Obviously, the parents want to feel, that they, their child is wanted here, but also they want to see the facilities. And, in a good thing is a lot of the players come from greater Helsinki area, just because a lot of the players are from here. Probably 60+% of the junior national team players come from probably within an hour, 45 minutes of Helsinki. So a lot of the players, they don't need to move into Helsinki to come to HBA. So that obviously makes a big difference, because if you don't have to, for 15, 16-year-old child's place is in home. Yeah. It's not somewhere abroad in somewhere. It's home. Yeah. That's where you mentally, physically grow. So but now that we open up the new facility year and a half ago, it was also built athletes dormitory, over 10 million euro big housing, 9-story housing where athletes can live and go to school, come to our academy. So now it is easier for first year HBA player to move in and live right kind of under the same roof, and the parents would feel a lot more comfortable, because back in the day, we would have to help find them a rental place somewhere close, but it was never really close. So before, we only had very few players who moved to Helsinki for the first year of high school. we would kind of recommend that because of the housing, for the second year, when you're 16 turning 17, come for your last 2 years. For example, like Lauri Markkanen came, or players like that, for the last 2 years. But also the game has changed just in this last 10, 12 years that we've been doing this. Like, you need to start the physical training earlier. You need to start higher level training earlier if you want to keep up with, if the Finnish player wants to fight for the same job with the Lithuanian player, it's not enough to start your physical training when you get to high school. We need to make sure our junior clubs are doing a great job when the kids are 12 or something like that.
Yeah. So you showed me the new facilities that you're talking about, and I mean, it's a huge investment, but it's also a really good foundation for the future to recruit even more and to have it more appealing. So my question is that, are you looking to expand, also recruit internationally, or are you looking to keep it? Because if you have the dormitories, it's easier to bring guys over and then have them on an online English program to finish high school or whatever. But it seems like it could be a big recruitment process internationally as well.
Yeah, it is. It is our job is to develop men's national team players. So you need to be a Finnish citizen.
Yeah.
As of right now, and we've had people contact us, and last week was actually the last time I had someone contact me about some European players that would like to come. But as of right now, it's a national kind of high school academy, and we don't take any guys without a Finnish passport. Obviously, there's a lot of academies around Europe, a lot of high level, a lot of good. Then maybe some who have some work to do, and it is funny when the men's national team starts getting better, start getting the results. We start getting more calls, about, hey, could my son come to you? And we also start getting calls from Finnish families living abroad, or maybe a mom or dad is a Finnish and the other parent is a foreigner, and they start, hey, my son lived here for his whole life, could he or she maybe come and try out for the junior national team camp, or come to HBA as an exchange student. Yeah. So it is that's the way it goes.
You need those success stories. You need those success stories as examples. How many has been since the start 2012? How many national team players have you produced?
I think I just counted. I think 18 or 19 has played an actual official men's national team game.
Wow, that's impressive.
So last summer we had at Eurobasket we had 5. Oliver Kamawa unfortunately had to go back to school, so he still played the World Cup qualifiers. So next summer, I pretty much, I mean, if barring injuries, there's going to be probably half of the roster is going to be from HBA. And then, but then you look at Australia, which is a huge basketball country.
Yeah.
40+ million people. 12 out of 12 have gone to Center of Excellence.
Yeah.
And and it's I love different paths, and I understand why people are, some people are still thinking that the HBA is not good for Finnish basketball. And every time you do something high level, you're going to have an opposition. If you don't have opposition, you're doing something wrong.
Exactly.
So, but we try to be open. We try to find out, like, hey, why does this person or this club maybe feel that way? And we're not perfect. In no way we're perfect. I mean, when I started coaching here full time, 2014, I had a long career. I played for Hall of Fame coaches. I wasn't a coach. The more I coach now is my 11th. I started kind of 2012, but full time now for 9 years. Every day I know that I know less. And back in the day it was kind of one truth. You go to school, especially if a coach like Majerus, he brainwashes you to believe that everything needs to be done one way. Mm-hmm. I remember going back to the national team camps in the summers during the college, and I was asking questions like, all right, how we do this? And the coach is like, well, we don't really have a one way. Like, how is that possible? Like, this action needs to be done. I need to know that every other 11 players do it this way.
Yeah.
So then you're brainwashed. And then I had a hard time adjusting first to NBA and then to Europe, because I still felt like if you don't do it something like this way, I'm like, well, that's wrong. Which and now looking back, I can laugh at myself, but that's how deeply a strong experience or coaches can influence a player. But now obviously I understand that, hey, the beauty of our game is that there's everything, you can do everything 10 different ways. You can win a European or World Championship with 2-1-2 zone, or with a full court man-to-man press, or something in between. And whatever is kind of famous at that time, that's where coaches go towards. And now how the Spain played last summer with box and one and some zone. Now all of a sudden you start seeing a lot more of that in Euroleague.
Yeah,
you start seeing a lot more of that in junior leagues. But that's how it goes everywhere. I mean, when France was dominating football, 20 years ago, they won the World Cup. You see French coaches in every league. Now, a little less. So it's a greatest job other than playing basketball, coaching. But it's also humbling because the players kind of know more what we should do today than the coaches. That's how I feel. Like, yes, we can have structure, but the players, they know, they feel it today. So I try to ask them certain amount of questions, or feel, how, hey, you want to do this or this way, because I'm not playing there anymore.
I completely agree with you. There's no absolute truth, and I'm always I like to. There's intuitive coaching. If I would be a head coach, I would be intuitively coaching. I would see what the players like, what they don't like, what they feel, what's more natural to them, what's not natural. This is one natural to one person, one player. It's not natural to another player. So you kind of go off your intuition and your experience, and you're trying to kind of combine by talking to the players. Sometimes they're young and they don't have the experience, obviously, but they have some sort of feeling for what's good and what's good for them. And if I look back on, I saw Lowry before he went to Arizona in when he was HBA, and tell me if I'm wrong, but the style of play you guys had is different then than now, because back then it felt like, and I really adored the way you guys played back then. That you guys let everybody do everything. Bigs were handling the ball, guards, it was cutting, moving, the ball was moving around. It was a free flow offense where everybody learned an all-around skill set. There was no true center. So everybody was kind of on a perimeter, inside, outside, cutting, reading. And it made me feel that it was kind of the origin of basketball. When you feel like they're learning the foundation and they're learning to understand. They don't have a tunnel vision. They have an all-around skill set, and they understand what the basketball is really all about. It's not just specialists, big guy, shooter, pick and roll player, but everybody was doing everything, and therefore the ones that are naturally more talented, they reach their potential easier because they were able to do all these things. They were able to be creative. What I see in Spain also, they let the kids do mistakes at a young age. They let them play freely. They let them play without, I call it complex basketball, where they play with, in Eastern Europe, they play with complexity. They're not complexity, complexes within their own mind, and they're afraid to do a mistake. They're afraid because you have to do it, like you said, one way and not the other way. And I see kids in Spain growing up throwing passes with one hand to the right hand, to the left corner with the right, to the right corner with the left. And it's all, you make a mistake, you learn from it. You get your ass whooped maybe, but you're learning how to develop. So I'm wondering of how you implemented that system, and if I'm kind of seeing that there's a progression now, a little bit different styles coming along.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny, we got kind of, the way we played then goes back to kind of my strong belief in Rick Majerus. I mean, the way we played probably the first 5-6 years of HBA was kind of the 24-second version of Rick Majerus's motion offense,
mm-hmm.
which is it's a funny. I mean, people know he was a drill sergeant. Everything needed to be done by the book. But half of our offense, every time we got a stop, which was a lot of times, we were into our motion, which Coach Majerus had no clue what we're going to do when we crossed the half court. We can do whatever we want.
I love that. I love that. It's hard to scout too.
Yeah, but it was based on automatics. Like if I come down, I'm yelling, "Hey Benas, hey downscreen." You wait for me, downscreen coming, and then the other three guys need to adjust to that.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can yell me a flare, and we start up. So in a lot of ways, it's and in today's kind of automatic, game is that, but it was based on that 5 guys move in synchronized way when the first guy makes some kind of read, and there's spots on the floor, and then you fill that spot. If someone leaves that spot, someone probably needs to fill that spot.
It's a classic read and react, right?
Yes, yeah, and it, but then it kind of cracks me up when people say yeah, we run motion, but then for some motion is a set play.
Yeah,
it's not a motion. So and Rick Majerus was famous about it. I mean I know Rick Pitino, and he came and Calipari, and they came to Majerus and picked his brain, and I know Bobby Knight and Rick Majerus, they were 2 motion offense gurus in the world. And so it was a lot of ways in that, and then probably the last 6 years we've gone probably closer to our national team style, where we do have a center kind of. I mean, we had a center back then also, but now it's more of a start of the offense is a more of a kind of based on our national team way of playing game, where it's either the inside game or a swing. But you're right, it was a little bit different, and for me, because I thought it was, and I think it still is in a way. I'm not saying it's the best way, because like I said, there's no absolutes, but it is a great way to learn basketball IQ, learn the spacing, learn to read other 4 players. And I mean, it's funny, I go back and I sometimes, maybe once a year, I stop and go to my hard drives and maybe watch a 15 minutes of some game from 25 years ago. And it was funny to see how synchronized it was. I mean, game has changed for better. I mean, because that game 25 years ago, although we were good at that time, but it was not a beautiful basketball in today's standards.
Yes.
But anyway, so yeah, you're right that we play a little different, but it's still, we still try to do kind of the same things after the advantage is made. Like, let's say after a ball screen situation, there's an advantage, and then we kick it out. Then kind of those automatics kick in. Mm-hmm. But because you only maybe have 10 seconds left on the shot clock, it's more passing, cutting automatics rather than someone starting an action with the screen or a flare or what have you. So yeah, you're right. We did play a little different, and I know guys liked it back then, and it's something that I kind of go back and think that maybe we can take some elements from there. Mm-hmm. and it is something I did a podcast for, or I interview for, because it's been 25 years since our 98 Final Four run, and they did a little interview on that, and I told them as well that I would, if Rick Majerus was alive today, I would love to see how he would change his offense for 24-second shot clock, because he was a genius, but I would love to see what he would do, to screw up with the defense. But yeah, but we play fast. We still have absolutely the same way. If you're a big guy, you get a rebound, you are a point guard. You push.
Yeah.
We don't want point guards to come back for the ball, facing our own basket. Like, you go, you got to believe that your center or whatever forward, he passes forward to you. So we definitely want to go up the floor, with less dribble and more passes, and then give freedom for all players. We play in the second highest men's league with HBA, which is a kind of semi-professional league. There's some professional American players, some good veteran Finnish players, and some young players in other teams who are going up for the pro level. So our job is not, we want to win every game, but that's not our job. Our job is to develop players. So we give our players freedom to make mistakes. We don't pull players for, taking a one bad shot. if he truly believed like, hey, that was a good shot. Maybe we look at the film afterward, like, hey, well, what was maybe a better option here? But so we definitely believe that you develop through good experiences, through mistakes, and having the freedom to explore your toolbox and use your whole toolbox. And I think then on a national team level, we're definitely searching for that next competitive advantage that we can have. Mm-hmm. When we kind of bounced on the scene, 15 years ago, when we kind of first start getting the first big wins, late 2000s, Italy or Serbia in the 07, 08, we were one of the first national teams that took 33 as a game, and people start going, hey, those are crazy. They're run and gun team. Well, we just happen to have 5 guys on the floor who can shoot it.
Exactly.
It was later in my career. So, I was more, more into shoot more than, scoring low post. And then we were really aggressive on defense. We're showing ball screens hard and playing aggressive denial defense, despite not being more athletic or quicker than the other team. But as a unit, we were quicker. But now the game has changed and everybody's shooting threes. So that advantage kind of went away for us, our Finnish national team. So now we're looking for what can be the next competitive advantage. And we truly believe that the 4 or 5 man, with them using ball screens and maybe working together, as a and having different kind of lineups is there to maybe have some kind of different look than. Because if we as at the national team level, if we play the same way than Lithuania does or France does or Serbia does, we don't have the material. We don't have the manpower to do it. Like, we have 20,000 licensed players. Yeah, our first team is pretty good these days. It's pretty damn good. But still, we need to be different, or at least we believe we need to be different in some areas to give us advantage. So the more traditional basketball countries who still believe in kind of, maybe a little older way of thinking, and they have maybe hard time adjusting to something that maybe those crazy Finns do, So so that's kind of something we're working on, and it's obviously every country is doing the same thing, but we don't have the luxury like you guys have 2 7-footers who can dominate. We don't have it, so we need to be different.
You're ahead of your time. Your national team was ahead of the time because you played through your strengths. That it's only the right way to play. That you can't make the players play a coach's way, even because you don't have the personnel to do what the coaches want. So yeah, the best coaches adjust to their players and the roster they have, especially with the national team. You can't just bring in a coach and play one way. You gotta you're basically. The national team is the best players, and you can bring somebody else in that you kind of like or you recruit. But
unfortunately, you kind of can.
You kind of can these days, yeah. But
at least Lithuania and Finland, we don't. But
one you can have one. And you had Jameer Wilson, didn't you?
No. Well, he married a Finnish girl, lives his whole off seasons in Finland. So Wilson was, so he's the only kind of none at least half biologically half Finn we have, right. But he truly is he passed the very hard language test here and all that, because getting a Finnish passport is probably harder than getting into Pentagon. We had American players who lived here, married a Finnish lady, and can't pass the test after 25 years. So
yeah,
so it's that's a whole nother topic of whether national teams should have that. In basketball, in my opinion, it affects too much the game.
Yeah, I agree.
In football, 1 out of 11, not a big deal.
I agree. I was thinking about something, and I'm just going to throw it out there because I just thought of it. Sometimes I have ideas going into my mind when you talk about playing different, and I always like different. Quinn Snyder made me think different, and I think that it's you have to be creative as a coach. So I was thinking of a reverse elbow action where the player, the guard comes to the elbow and the big passes to the guard, and then the big guy goes down and sets screen, and then I feel like you can play freely until there's a mismatch, and then you go for the mismatch, right? I think that's probably a good approach, to look for the mismatches as you are going through your free flow offenses. And it's, you know, when you see things, when you watch basketball, and then all of a sudden you feel like it naturally is asking for it. That's what Quinn used to say. Look at the tape. The players and the play will tell you what it wants, not you. You can't tell it. The players will tell you, and the play will tell you what it wants. So looking for those situations as you're coaching, as you're practicing, you have to be really mindful of what else is out there, and not only one way.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. And I think where we have not been great always is that we've, you know, we have a, you know, certain type of kind of, you know, a strong base of what we want, you know, our offense to look like, or defense for our junior national teams. In a kind of, in a broader picture, we want that our U16 girls team plays kind of the same way that our U20 men's team, or even the senior teams. So the same elements need to be there. But I think there's a really good progression going on there. But I think there for too many years at the men's national team level and all the way down to junior, we were kind of stuck with, let's just do what we've done and not develop every year, or not be brave enough to, like you said, to tweak it or maybe change something. And I think that was a you know, we definitely in the last year and a half with the men's national team, we've obviously now with Lassi Tuovi being head coach, you know, it was kind of more natural to you know, to change maybe a little more things than we've had in the last couple of years. So yeah, so it's a never-ending story that you have to if you play the same way you played last year, you know, or you stick with the same guns for year after year, you're not improving.
Yeah.
So and the players, I think, which still drives, like, I drive myself mad and our coaching staff in the men's national team, that we underestimate how much the players can take. Mm-hmm. We underestimate how creative the players are if they're in the right mental and physical state of mind. And you know, I guess, I mean, because you know, again, going back to Majerus, I think we had 80. I think my third year, I remember we had 82 half court options, 17 baseline plays, and absolutely, if he called or Andre Miller called a play, it was a split second, and you need to be running it, and we all got him. So right there, I showed that I have a pretty damn good hard drive here, and I know every basketball. Okay, some maybe less, some more, but we have to be braver to throw more stuff at the players. I know national team setup is different. It's shorter preparation, especially these windows, you know, with two days of practice. You don't throw anything new stuff there. Yeah. But at the summertime, you have to be able to bring and throw something at them. See if it sticks. If not, boom. Then be brave enough to, hey, okay, we practice that for a week. Doesn't work, boom. Let's try something else. And I think that's something, you know, you know, it's still that player in me that says, like, hey guys, they can take it, or hey, this is bullshit. This is just coaches talk. It doesn't matter for player this way, one way or another, if we do it this way or this way.
You know, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's that's something that probably that I in everyday coaching here at the HBA is to not change everything, have a strong structure, strong culture, but also be brave enough to change something. Like for next year, we're gonna have a lot of tall players, a lot of really, you know, young players, you know. So I'm getting into process with other coaches to really learn and how we can implement, you know, not necessarily two post guys, but two tall guys in the same time. And you know, and I was kind of throwing the question to our national team coaches, and then, you know, Teemu Rannikko, the point guard that he is, first answer was like, hey, well, look at Lithuania. They got two big guys. So yeah, so I'm going to go to Synergy and look at what you guys do with the two big guys. But So it's a great challenge that waiting for us at the HBA for next year, that we need to change a little bit offensive, defensively, to having 205, maybe 210 guys on the floor who are not maybe ready, deadly 3-point shooters yet. So, and how they can play in a semi-professional men's league with a very good coaching and pretty good level players. So that's a great challenge that waiting for me, and I kind of started the process. So any coaches who have great knowledge of that, I contact Benas, and I'd love to get on Zoom and pick your brain.
So anybody, feel free to contact me. I'm open for that discussion all the time. I have a lot of ideas about that too. But my comment to that, before we go to the ATOs, because I prepared some ATOs for you to answer quickly. But there's some things that I feel coaches don't do what you're saying because they're insecure, because they feel like, oh, if I do it now, show it, and then a week or two later I take it out, I'm gonna look stupid. That's the wrong approach. But I feel like a lot of coaches are insecure about their own ideas, and they rather have it, structured so the players see it's legit. It's everything is already tried. This play is legit, but it was legit maybe with a different roster, with a different player set, with a different kind of skill set. So I think that coaches need to be more believing not only in the players but in themselves as well, in terms of giving something new.
Yeah, and I kind of that same idea from everyday life. I love cooking. I love trying new stuff. I might see a recipe, or my wife says, "Hey, let's try this. It looks good on a magazine." We cook it once. It was not good. Boom, done.
Yep.
If we approach, let's run it one time, or let's practice this type of defense for 1 week. It doesn't work. At least we got something out of it, and maybe in the future we're gonna face that defense, and we have some kind of experience from it. Especially in this young age, if we play everything just one way, how can we develop players who are then ready to jump into pro teams where maybe they play totally different? So we definitely don't. We want to implement, and we want to face different type of defenses in our practice. We want to we take in a small-sided games, or some days we run different type of offense that we actually run in a game, just so our players get experience of it, and also to practice against it. Because otherwise, we're just going to practice against our own offense.
Exactly.
And then and vice versa, we always practice against our hard show defense. And in today's basketball, 80% of defenses are some kind of drop defense on ball screens, or maybe level or switching.
Yeah.
So it's a like I said, need to be braver to try new things, but still the players. But then the worst thing that you can hear, which happened a couple of times this year, is like you kind of get the feedback from players like, we don't know like what we're supposed to do because so much stuff going. Then you need to pull the brake, like, all right, get your own base needs to be so strong that even if you don't go back to it for a couple of weeks in some drill, they still know it, by heart.
Yeah. And getting back on the topic with Lithuania and playing with two bigs, there's different approaches. I feel like a national team, it's like you said, it's less time, and especially not even on windows, but even in the summer, it's less time to implement, because in Lithuania's case, they have two bigs. They have two different skill sets as a big. They have a completely different strengths and weaknesses. So it always feels to me that when you have this kind of roster setup, you need to play in three different ways. You need to play one when one of them is on the court, another way when the other big is on the court, and then the third way when they're together on the court. Those are three different playbooks, three different styles of play that you need to implement within your summer. So you have to constantly be thinking about that, and your game revolves around that, because one guy is better in pick and rolls, better in pick and rolls. One guy is better in posting, but short roll, passing, elbow action. So you always have to think of who's on the floor, who's your lineup that you're having out there, and what's their strengths, because the strengths and weaknesses are different for each lineup.
No, absolutely, yeah, and it's but yeah, it's it's a challenge I'm looking forward to, and the players are, and then also we need to because we're still kind of laboratory for our national team program. We try stuff and we get a feedback from it, and then we can bring it to the national team level, and So that's kind of the fun part of HBA in a way too.
So let's bring it home and let's shoot. I will shoot out some ATOs, and you're gonna fire back at me with the first things that come to mind, and we'll see what you can come up with.
All right, let's do it.
Best advice to players preparing for retirement.
Talk to someone who's retired, and talk to whether it's a sports psychologist or someone who can mentally prepare you for yourself to fill that empty space that's going to be in your life, physically and mentally. So somehow have that, whether it's I was able to boom, go right into coaching after 2014. Then 6 years before that, I didn't have it, and I went to a tough place.
Best advice you received as a player.
Offensively, Coach Donahue was a legendary coach, Rick Majerus' friend. He was at our practice, and individually, it's a simple advice. Like, he told me that try to be hard to guard. It's so simple advice, basketball wise, but like especially off the ball, try to be hard to guard. Like off the ball, when you're getting ready to receive try to be hard to guard. Like if too often we just concentrate on when we get the ball. Now I got all the moves in the world, but be hard. Like, what kind of player is a pain in the ass to guard? Like a big guy, run the floor, crash board, fake. So like it's a first thing that comes to mind. There's probably a lot of advice, but like it's simple as that. Try to be as hard to be guarded as possible off the ball. Then you're a hard player to guard.
Best advice you received as a coach.
Talk less.
Best basketball Twitter follow.
Wow. Used to be Keith Van Horn before he went off the radar, because he always had a Rick Majerus story probably every week. Basketball Twitter follow. Wow. I come out of this timeout with a turnover. I don't. You know what? It's come to a point like I read the Twitter feed, but I don't like see who has it, like who's came out with it. But yeah, I love, kind of from coaching standpoint, I love the stuff that Pete Lonergan and the rest of Australian guys, when they're putting up, they're great sharers. They share a lot of ideas, a lot of really open. And Peter's kind of sort of a mentor for me for thousands of kilometers away, and sending me stuff.
Who's that? What's his name?
Peter Lonergan from Australian basketball.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great, head of their national team coaching school there at their federation, and kind of head of the center of excellence. They're great. I stay in touch with them and try to kind of learn a lot from them, and it's a great resource.
Something personal about you we wouldn't find on Google.
I almost became a ski jumper. I was going to practice with my mom, but we missed the bus, and then I said, yeah, no, let's not go. So I could have been the first 210 tall ski jumper.
That's a nice little story. One daily habit you can't go without.
Unfortunately, it's probably picking up the phone and looking at the Twitter or Facebook. I would love to get rid of that, although it's a great resource for coaches in a way too. Wow. Probably hopefully saying to a wife, and kids how much I love them and care of them, but that's probably too cheesy of an answer. So maybe kind of in a way I try to take whether it's a 5 minutes or 50 minutes, and it's kind of unplanned, but just take a I need a 5, 10, 15 minute just kind of me time. Whether it's at home, I can just go upstairs and leave everything, rest of the family doing whatever they do, and then just like, you know, maybe not, yeah, probably every day, kind of unplanned and not, and but just, you know, kind of take a little bit of time for yourself, whether it's going in a couch, open a TV without any kind of plan what you're watching, just, you know, so you're not going 12 hours a day just doing something. Just take a little bit of time on yourself.
I think we all need that. I think we all need that.
Yeah.
And the last one that I ask every of my guests, and this is a Tim Ferriss question. I don't know if you know him, one of my favorite top podcasters. He's asking his guest, and I like that question, is your favorite failure, which you learned from the most in the past and you'll carry the lesson on today. It's something that you feel like you failed miserably at, but you cherish that experience.
Wow. Kind of first thing that comes to mind is when for the first time, you know, maybe this had a big impact on me. I don't know, but this first thing that comes to mind is we talk about back in '89, when the first time that my junior club, YMCA Helsinki, the different kind of two kind of city teams, we come together and they form a one team, first team and second team. And I didn't make the first team as a year younger, but my best friend and a couple other guys in my age group made the first team. I remember calling the coach like, "Hey, is there still possible, you know, to make the first team?" Like, well, you know, season is about to start, so maybe not. But and so you know, and then kind of because of that, the following year, you know, I was in the second team, and I remember I didn't go for practice maybe 2 weeks straight. I was like, you know, I might be done with practice. You know, I'm 13 years old. You know, I'm not good enough for the first team, and my best friend is there. So, but then, you know, then luckily, you know, went back to practice after maybe 2 weeks. So that's something that comes to mind. I haven't really thought about it, but that was probably the first like a big failure I did. Or if it's a big failure as a year younger, not made the first team in a local club, but that's probably something comes out. Yeah, and then, you know, later on my career, maybe, you know, the 2014 World Cup is a I don't know if I've gotten over it, so it maybe doesn't answer your question, but that's definitely something that you know, we blew an automatic chance to make the second round and even you know, compete for, you know, I know we would have faced you guys with the Mantas being hurt and all that, but it was you know, we played miserable. It was why it was a bad experience, because it was last summer of my career, and we weren't able to reach the level of the previous years. And you know, it still kind of haunts me, as you can tell, you know. But it's you know, so that's why I'm pretty pumped up to go back to World Cup, you know, after 9 years and you know, doing some damage.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Tell everyone how they can find you if they want to contact you for some ideas, or just reach out, whether it's Twitter or Instagram. I don't know what you use most, but let everyone know.
Yeah, you can reach me. Again, let me see what my handle is. Probably capital H, capital H, Hanno, capital M, Mottola. So Hanno Möttöla together. You know, they can email me, hanno@basket.fi. It's our federation email for myself, hanno@basket.fi. You know, I would love to, not so much, I mean, hopefully I can maybe give some advice or help someone, but, you know, so far, every coach I've talked to, you know, they help me more than maybe, or at least they help me a lot. Maybe I can help and share some ideas, but I love to, you know, talk to coaches and find out more about basketball and how things are done elsewhere, because the way we do it might be good for us now, or we might think, but there's definitely different ways of doing things. So that's why basketball is so great a sport. It's there's no one way.
It's constantly evolving. I love it.
Yeah.
Hanno, thank you very much. Thanks everybody for listening and watching, and we'll see you soon some other time, next podcast. Bye, everyone.
Ačiū, Benas.
Ačiū.